Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you two different looks and I'm reviewing the MORPHE 35I Icy Fantasy palette, which was released on the 16th of January this year. The palette features 14 matte shadows, 20 shimmer shadows and 1 pressed glitter. The palette itself retails for $25 US, 32 Canadian dollars, 36 Australian dollars, 24 pounds and 27 euros. So for the first tutorial I am dipping into the shade Dreamer, which is a lavender colour, and I'm using the Morphe M506 brush to pack that on. In the middle third of my crease I'm using Into the Blue, and I'm using that with a Morphe M506 brush. And I'm using packing motions and soft circular motions in order to get a good blend between the two colours. Next to the previous shade, and using the exact same brush, I'm using Chill Thrill, which is this gorgeous mint colour. So far all three of the colours have blended out super well and I have had no issues with any of them. Then I'm taking this pink shade, which is Sky High, and I'm putting that above the purple shade we laid down first of all, again using the same Morphe M506 brush. Lastly, I'm using Dazed, which is this shimmer green. I didn't really realise it was a shimmer until I started editing, but it's a very gorgeous shade and it definitely worked with the look anyway. To connect the outer portion of my eye and the wing of the green shade, I'm using Echo, which is this very pale lime green colour. I thought my camera was rolling for this bit, but it wasn't, so I wasn't able to get me cutting my crease, but I did basically the same thing as I normally do, so I will leave the little card if you want to go check out how I cut my crease. On the inner third of my crease, I'm using Brilliant, which is this beautiful iridescent colour. It is this kind of topper shade that they've put in the palette, and it is by far one of my favourite shades in the whole palette. Next I'm using Mystical, which is a similar shade, however it has a green undertone, and again it is one of these topper shades. For these shades, in order for my brush to pick it up, I swirled my brush in and also swipe. Finally, on the outer portion of my lid, I'm using Starlit, which looks darker in the pan than it does on the eye. Again, it is one of these topper shades which has green reflex in, but is very sheer. Underneath the eye, I'm going back into Sky High, and I'm using the Morphe E36 brush for this. Next to that, I'm using Coral Cloud, which is this pale peach colour. Then I'm using Wistful, which is the lemon yellow colour, and I'm putting that on the outer portion of my lower lash line, and I'm connecting that to the lime green wing that we made. You'll see here that I did do a pale blue liner above my cut crease, however it was cracking and I didn't think it looked that good. So I put some rhinestones over it and on the inner portion of my eye just to jazz it up a bit, and I used the Farrah lashes from Huda Beauty. And this is the final result. So far my thoughts on the palette is that it's a wonderful palette. The shimmer toppers really are the star of the palette, and I think if you were going for some pastel rainbow look, this is the absolute perfect palette to do that. The second look I am going to show you guys is this recreation from Calista Moretz. She is an amazing Instagram makeup artist, so I will leave her link in the description as she's absolutely incredible, so go check her out. So starting off using the Morphe M506 brush, I'm dipping into Sky High, and instead of using circular motions to blend the eyeshadow, I am using packing motions. Then over top of that, I am placing Dreamer using the exact same brush. In order for these shadows not to get too much shadow on your lid, every time I dip my brush into the pan, I will tap it off a couple of times just so that there is not too much excess shadow on the brush. Next, I'm dipping into the blue using the exact same brush, and I'm doing the same thing again. I found these three shades worked really well for me this time, and there were absolutely no issues with the palette. Next, I am going under my crease area and I am using Coral Cloud. This was a very easy blend again, absolutely no issues with the colour whatsoever. For the last colour, I am using Wishful, which is this pastel yellow colour. This was the only colour I have found an issue with, and it was just because I think my base was a bit too dry, and obviously my camera didn't want to focus on this part, so that's great. Doing the exact same colours underneath my eye, with the yellow one being closest to the lash line and the blue colour being the one that is blending everything out. Then I'm going into Brilliant, which is probably my favourite colour in this whole palette. It is that duochrome topper that I told you about earlier. You can see I popped these little stars on as well. They were just these holographic translucent glitter stars, and that was the final look. So that was a pretty easy one, blended very well, and I thought it turned out pretty good. Okay, so my overall thoughts on the palette is that it's actually a really good palette. I wasn't expecting it to be such a good palette just because I know pastels are really hard to formulate, and I have seen a few mixed opinions on the palette. However, I really enjoyed it. I think the key to this palette is to really pack the shadows on, but do it quite gradually. If you do have darker skin, you might have an issue with this palette just because it is a very white based palette and it is a very pastel palette, so unless you have a white concealer underneath, you might struggle with the palette. However, as far as pastels go, this is a pretty good palette. So I hope you all enjoyed this review and the tutorials that I did, and please like and subscribe and let me know your thoughts on the palette in the comments. Thank you for watching!